Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I've got my good friend Adam Dellemonico is our special guest. Super excited to have him today. It's interesting. He reached out to me last year, and I found out that when he got started in the business about 2.5, 3 years ago, the podcast was something he was listening to at the beginning of his career. I'm thrilled to have him. He is an originator at Movement Mortgage. Movement's a great company. It's actually where I'm at as well. And I wanted him to come on because I think our listeners need to hear that somebody who is relatively new in the business, just under 3 years, who funded $17 million last year, and this year will fund $42 million. I just feel like, Adam, people got to hear that that can be done and that you're doing it. And today's your birthday. What's up?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. What a
Man,
great gift.
welcome.
It's a circle of life. Yeah, no, for sure. It was one of the first things I did becoming a loan officer was listen to this podcast. So it's super humbling to be on it with you today. So thank you.
Hey, well, man, I got to tell you, I'm fired up because I love hearing that it's making a difference in people's lives. So, hey, tell the story. So you got to tell them you were new in the business. Tell us your story, and then tell
Yeah.
us how you use the podcast, and then we're going to get into tactics of what you're doing to kill it, man. 42 million. Bro,
Yeah, no,
that's
so
awesome.
yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it for sure. So I became a loan officer June 1st of 2017. So I'm 25 years old today. I graduated college May 10th of 2017. So 20 days after graduation, I became a loan officer at a small local bank where I was registered. I didn't have to take the MLO test. And I just started off right out of college being a loan officer and, just kind of thrown into the fire. And so what I was telling Steve is, right when I graduated college, I was living with my buddy in Franklin, Massachusetts. I'm an
Yeah.
originator in Providence, Rhode Island, which is about 45 minutes from Franklin to Providence. And Franklin is about 40 minutes south of Boston, which is where I'm originally from. And so on my commute every day, originally I was just listening to music. I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing as a loan officer. But as I started seeing a little bit about the industry, I just started Googling and how to be a loan officer, best practices of loan officers. And I stumbled upon the Loan Officer Leadership podcast
Wow.
about 2 or 3 weeks into being a loan officer. And that was legitimately my Bible for about the first
So
6 months
funny, man.
at the bank. Yeah, it's wild. So then I was telling Steve, last year I just Googled, I was like, man, I wonder where this guy, Steve Kiles, is at. And I found out you're at Movement.
Yeah.
And I was super pumped about that because I just made the transition the year prior. So it's circle of life. It's cool to be here. So thank you again.
Man, hey, it is. And I'm thrilled to have you. And I've got to tell you, it is a monumental feat to literally so I guess you would call it your first year. Yes. Last year being your real full first year, right? Or is
Yeah,
it your second?
I started June 1st of 2017. So
Yeah.
that's 6 months from June to December. I
Yeah.
was literally reading I didn't know how to I didn't know anything. I was a finance major, and this
Yeah.
is so not a finance job. It's a sales job, but I had to learn how to. I was shopping for FHA mortgage insurance. I mean, that's how green I was to the industry. I didn't know a thing. So that first 6 months, I was really training, doing open houses, trying to get my feet wet, figuring out I needed to build relationships in the industry. And then 2018 is when I made the transition. I transitioned to Movement on December 7th of 2017.
Yeah.
And prior to that, so from June 1st to December, I had funded 10 loans in my life. 10 loans for
Wow. Come on, man.
for 2.4 million. So started June 1st, transition to Movement December, and so 2018 was my first year in the business.
Yeah.
Realistically, it was the fresh start. So 2018 is my first year.
17 million. Threw it up.
17.
Like
Yep,
it's
17
nothing.
million.
And then
Yeah.
42 million this year. Hey, and we're going to talk about some of the tactics because here's what I know. You don't accidentally throw up 17 million. You don't accidentally throw up 42 million. So what I want to know is this. First off, to the people that are listening to the podcast and say, I'm just now starting my career, because, man, there's a ton of people that are listening and they're within the first year of their career in this industry. What would you say helped you catapult your growth and really come out of the great gate swinging, man? You were Rookie of the Year in your entire region, one of the youngest to actually make President's Club, and in a company of over 1,400 loan officers, a top 50 LO, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah, no. So it's crazy. It all happened really fast. And looking back on it and reflecting, I'd say that the number one thing that really catapulted my growth is a little bit of humility, but a whole lot of structure and regiment and discipline throughout my day. So the humility part was I knew I didn't know anything. I was an athlete in college. I played college baseball, so I'm very coachable. So I knew that if I had a roadmap, if I had a mentor, if I had examples, I would be able to do it and do it very well. So I was very humble in the sense that when I first got to Movement, I literally found the top 10 producers. They were on the hub. You could find top 100. I called the top 10 producers. I think 2 picked up. Like I got to talk to LG3, Lindsey Goins, who now I'm super close with, talk to like Connor McNulty. And I just picked their brain for a little bit about what they were doing.
Yeah.
And that paired with what I learned at loan officer leadership, just listening to you and how you structured your day and, you know, your belly to bellies and your breaking breads and your realtor calls and your theme days. Everyone was saying the same thing, was that you had to be super structured, had to take advantage of your time. And it was the small little things that you do over and over again that compound over time. So that structure and that discipline of, I'm the first one, you know, I may not know everything. I may not be the smartest person in the room, but nobody's going to outwork me. And that was something I took super serious from the beginning. I was always the first one in, last one out. And I just did the same things that the top producers were doing day in and day out. You know, and that led to early success. And the more that you do that, the more that you learn your craft, that's what really compounds it.
Oh, I love it. Well, hey, and you were even telling me earlier about reading guidelines. I mean, how, you know, I think people skip steps and rungs and they think, hey, I'm going to go originate a ton of loans, but then they get loans and then they don't know what to do with them. So what were you doing in the beginning? So let's talk about guidelines. Were you literally grabbing the guidelines and reading them?
Yeah, so I had the FHA guides, I had the
Yeah.
Fannie Freddie guides, and I had them printed out, and I was just like highlighted because I just graduated college, so
Oh,
I was
yeah.
in study mode still.
Oh, yeah.
So I was totally normal for me to just, you know, read a book and, you know, or, you know, sift through the guidelines and figure out what I needed to know, because I figured out pretty early that the quickest way to destroy a career is to hand out a pre-approval that does not close because of financing. And that, especially in Rhode Island, there's only 1 million people in Rhode Island. There's only 6,000 realtors, probably 2,000 of them actually produce.
Wow.
If you sent a producer a pre-approval that ended up blowing up, you were getting blacklisted. The offices, you know who can't close deals. So that kept me up at night. I mean, I was physically scared to send out a pre-approval that didn't end up closing. So the only way to combat that was to know my stuff. So I took it very seriously, to the fact that this year I'm super proud of it. I haven't really talked about it yet with you, but I should close about 160 units. I have zero denials and I've missed 0 close dates.
Come on, man.
So yeah, missed 0 close dates due to financing, obviously. You know, seller stuff, new construction, whatever the case may be, but no denials and no missed closing dates, because I just take my craft so seriously. And this is a serious job that we have. This is no joke. I mean, we're messing with people's lives if we're, you know, in not doing our due diligence up front. So I take a lot of pride in the fact that I know my stuff. I'm not going to put people under contract that shouldn't be under contract.
That's huge, man. Hey, well, let's talk about 17 million. So on your trajectory for the first year, what was it specific? What are some of the things that you were doing to get to 17 million? So you're brand new in an area that you're really new in, so you don't have a lot of deep relationships. How did you go about nurturing and cultivating those relationships to where they trusted you enough to send you business?
Yeah, so I started off with the real basics. I went to open houses every Saturday and Sunday, as many as I could do. I'm from Boston, which is about an hour and a half north of Providence, and they're 2 drastically different places. So I didn't know any realtors. I don't have any family here. I have a few friends here, but these aren't my people. And I didn't realize that I should probably have started my referral-based business in a place where I knew some people. So I just essentially just threw up over the state of Rhode Island. I just was everywhere. I went to every networking event. I went to every open house that I could, Popeyes, whatever I needed to do to I remember vividly, I would just go on LinkedIn and just search realtor and just like add realtors on LinkedIn and like message them, and do that on Facebook, just so I started building some type of database of agents. But I did open houses, and I'd say the number one thing that I did that started getting me at bats, because it's all about at bats and applications, and I take a lot of applications, and I take a lot of pride in that, because as loan officers, we can't control when they go under contract. We can't control, you know, if they end up going with us or not. I mean, I guess we can control that, but you know, we can only control how many applications that we take. So I take pride in taking a lot of applications, but the thing that really drove those applications were belly to bellies, just grabbing coffee with people. I'm not afraid to, message somebody that I don't know, or cold call a realtor and ask them to go grab a cup of coffee, and then just do the things that I listened to in the podcast with you. The two biggest driving forces were the Loan Officer Leadership podcast and Consolidated Coaching with Scott Groves.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that really gave me a roadmap. I did FROG, right? Family, recreation, occupation, and goals. Those were the things I took all of the pieces to the puzzle that I was learning from you and from Scott, and I just implemented them. But I did it every single day. I was OCD about it. I did the same thing on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, until I started seeing results. And, those little wins of getting a realtor, I used to get so excited when somebody would call me from a number that I didn't have in my phone. Because in college,
yeah.
I mean, that would never happen. You only,
Yeah.
I never even got phone calls. People would just text me because I'm a millennial. So when I saw a phone number pop up on my phone that I didn't have I would get super excited. And I could see that it was working. So I just doubled down on it. So I was filling my calendar with coffee appointments until I had too many leads that I knew what to do with it.
Hey, that's huge. And when you were doing the coffee appointments, so talk about closing. How were you getting agents who didn't quite know you, and you being relatively new to the business? How did you get them to convert to say, I'm going to trust you enough to send you a lead?
Yeah, so I really stayed away from talking about mortgages.
Yeah.
I would always start off with the same thing. How did you get into the business? That's like, no one goes to school to be a realtor. So it's always super cool stories on how realtors get started. But I just tried to find something that I could connect with the realtor about. And then my follow-up was on point. Handwritten cards, shooting a text, thanking them. What's the actionable item that we're going to do? I did open houses. I offered open houses. I gave financing flyers. I did the nitty gritty stuff that nobody wants to do.
Yeah, nobody wants to do it. You're too busy.
No one
I don't
wants
want
to
to
do
go
it.
on a weekend.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
who wants
a
to do
weekend.
flyers? Yeah.
You kidding me? It's petty work, but that's the little things that it just got me in the door.
Yeah.
And then when I got the lead, I knew what to do with it, because like I said, I knew my guidelines. I wasn't going to give them a pre-approval unless they were approved. I was going to follow up better than the realtor was going to follow up. I have a super good spreadsheet that I use to track my leads, so nothing falls through the cracks. There was never going to be a time where a realtor was going to be like, hey, what happened to John Smith? And I'm like, who's John Smith? I have no idea who you're talking about. So, I was very diligent with my follow-ups, and I took every name, phone number, email address like it was the last deal that I was going to get, or the only way that I was going to be able to eat that month. So,
that's huge.
yeah. So,
well, hey, and then the agents, you know what's interesting about that? If an agent knows you're hungry, number one, they're going to send you business, because most agents, what is the stat? I think it's 90% of agents close less than 10 transactions a year. And so when they know you're disciplined and you're just as passionate about that lead that it took them 4 months to nurture and finally get them to commit, there's a lot of trust built in that. Plus, hey, you know what I love? I hear a lot of people say, hey, I'm desperate for business. And then you tell them, okay, go do open houses, work on finance flyers. And you start telling them what to do. And they're like, I'm hungry, but Adam, I'm not that hungry.
So it's so true. I see it every day in my market. Like, no one does open houses. It's crazy. And now I have a team that will help me with that stuff. And so I can leverage my time to do, more leveraged events.
Yes.
So I'm not necessarily doing, the open houses every weekend, but you better believe I'm doing belly to bellies every week. I mean, you can't stop that. I'm going deeper with my current referral sources, but I'm always trying to build and, use the business that I have to create more business.
Oh, I love it. Well, and I'll tell you, I've got a guy on my team who is super hungry. We're capturing a builder because literally for the last 8 weeks, he's attended an open house on one of the properties this builder's had a hard time selling. And so, man, I'm telling you, those open houses work. They take a lot of commitment and they're not easy, but if you'll do it, he finally got the last 3 sold. And so literally we're booking our appointment with the builder next week to say, what's our next development? We helped you on this one. Now we want the other 70, 80s throwing down at the rest of the year, So that's huge.
And it's not sexy. It's not sexy stuff.
No.
But it gets the job done, and that's what we have to do. But you have to do it consistently over and over again, and that's the only way to create consistency.
Hey, I love it. Well, and we were talking earlier too about discipline. You said one of the greatest keys to your success has been your discipline. And as an athlete, you're already used to the daily grind and what it takes to win at a high level. Talk about what disciplines you feel like have kept you really at the top of your game. So what is it? What's the day in the life of Adam look like? Or what are the disciplines that every week I do this without fail?
Yeah, so I have couple tasks that I have to do. As one of them, for example, is handwritten note cards. I have to do 10 handwritten note cards a week, and that's at a minimum.
Yeah.
Birthdays, anniversaries, realtor thank you cards, whatever the case may be. But I really like the idea of theme days that I listened to you and Scott both said the same thing, and I was like, these
Yeah.
guys are beasts, and they're doing it. So obviously, it has to work. So like for Mondays, for example, those are my realtor days. So I'm calling realtors. I have my database of every agent that I've come in contact with, and I'm just calling 10 realtors.
Yeah.
So it's not backbreaking work, but if you actually sit down and talk to a loan officer, how many actually call 10 outbound phone calls
Yeah.
for lead gen every Monday. So that's my task for Monday is 10 realtor calls. My Tuesday days are my live deals. So I'm calling the buyer's agent, the listing agent, and the buyer on Tuesdays on every live deal that I have. And I set the precedent up front. And when I go under contract, I call the listing agents. First thing I do and say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z throughout the transaction. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to call you every Tuesday and give you an update. If you need to get a hold of me prior to next Tuesday, you can always call me or text me. But just so you know, I'm going to give you an update every Tuesday. And then I follow through on it. And I set the same precedent with my clients and the same precedent with my buyer's agents. And then I do it because there's nothing worse than saying you're going to do something
And then don't
and
do
then
it.
not do it. Yeah, that's worse than not doing it at
Yeah.
all. So you say you're going to do it, just you gotta stick to that and do it. And honestly, quick side note: 35% of my business last year. I'm also have a very big thumb on the pulse of my business. I know all the statistics about my business. 35% of my closed deals last year were from listing agents that I
Wow.
then turned into referral partners
That's
just
huge.
by following
Doing
up and
what you said
asking
you would
for.
do.
Yeah,
That's huge.
exactly. So then Wednesdays are my pre-approvals. One of the things that movement allows us to do, which I take full advantage of, is the upfront underwrites. I upfront underwrite every single one of my clients, whether they're 800 credit score, W-2, 20% down. I'm upfront underwriting them so I get that condition sheet nice and early, and then I avoid any blow-ups just
At the
because
end. Yeah.
they're already fully underwritten. So I have about at any given point, I have about 65 to 80 pre-approved buyers. And so on Wednesdays, I'm calling a chunk of them just to stay in contact. There's nothing worse. Oh, I
Then
hate this
losing
so
some.
much that
Oh, I know it.
losing
Yeah.
somebody that I fully
90 days out
pre-approved.
because they forgot about you, or
It's
yeah,
the
hate that.
Yeah, it happened a few times, and man, I'll be
Yeah,
damned if that ever happens to me again. So I do everything. If you're buying a house, you're buying a house with me.
that's right.
If you get pre-approved, so those are my pre-approval days. The Thursdays are my VIP days. So people in the industry that aren't necessarily realtors, but they have a big, you know, they're important people in the industry. So some very high level CPAs, financial advisors, title reps, insurance
Yeah,
agents, some friends and family. I'm just calling people to stay in touch with them. And then Friday's kind of my rover day, whatever I really didn't, if I had a bunch of, I try to go to some closings. Rhode Island's very small. So if I, missed some of my calls on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the day that I cover that.
yeah, that's huge. Hey, you know what's crazy, Adam, is what you're saying is basics. Like and what I mean by that is you hear some say, well, I've got to, I was with a guy earlier, literally today, and he would say every day, man, I got to hit my 2 hour power hour. Got to hit my 2 hour power hour. And then I was talking to him and I said, well, how many did you hit last week? Well, none. He's like, I just couldn't get to it. And I said, exactly what you said about Monday. I said, why don't you just call 10 a day? 10 a day will get you a lot further than 2 hours of pipe dreams. And,
That you don't do.
it's, well, and the problem is who has two hours. So it's the consistency in little things every day. Now, do you have a time you're doing it every day?
So I try to do it before noon. So
Yeah. Okay.
I just try to do it before noon. I don't necessarily time block because we're in the mortgage industry. So
Yeah.
I don't have such a big team where I'm completely out of my files. So
Yeah.
I'm still very much so in control of my files. I have two dedicated people that work for me. I have a junior who's my front end that helps with the pre-approvals, and I have a contract to close partner. So I don't have this big massive team. So I'm still doing a
Yeah.
lot of heavy lifting on my files, which, I'm working through. I'm delegating where I need to delegate, but I just can't, there's no way for me to say from 9 to 10, I'm going to do this every Monday because I'm going to maybe I have a coffee appointment on
Yeah.
Monday
Yeah.
that, then comes in the way that I just know that I need to get it done, and I'm not leaving my office until I get it done. Some days I got to do it at 3:00, but I'm going to do it. I don't leave my office until I do whatever task that I have to do for that day.
Yeah. I love it. Hey, well, let's talk about this. So we've got discipline. What are some of the other things you feel like what's a practical tool or tip you can give somebody who's maybe more seasoned in the business? Something maybe we haven't already discussed that's helped you break that, 30 is a barrier. You broke 30 million, 40 is a barrier. That's a big deal. So any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would say one thing that I've really leveraged this year that I have started seeing pay huge dividends is my past clients.
Yeah.
So I've done a super good, my past clients, for them, I'd say 99% of my past clients are turned into moms, where if they hear somebody in the grocery store say, "Oh, I'm buying a house," they'll go over and they'll be like, "Hey, you got to use my loan officer, Adam. He's amazing." So I try to turn all of my past clients into referral partners. So I love on those people. They're hearing from me multiple times throughout the year. I just ran an awesome client appreciation event. I rented out an apple orchard, and who doesn't go apple picking once a year? And I just paid for it for them. I wasn't asking them to hang out with me. I just rented out an apple orchard. I had a check-in table. I had over 100 people come, and I already got blocked 5 loans in the last 2 months from that one
Wow.
event.
That's a great,
So
yeah.
that's something that I've leveraged, and I didn't have that my first year because I didn't have any past clients. I had 10 in 2017. So, so I didn't have any past clients.
Yeah.
But now I do have past clients, and I'm really staying engaged with them. I take really good notes. I'm super diligent with my files. So I know these people. I know their kids' names. I know their dogs. I know where they live. It was so funny. I was with
That's
my
huge.
branch manager, and he was like Ben Sharp. And I was like, closed August 17th, 2017. Like, I know I'm a psycho with
Wow.
my
Come
with
on,
my
man.
database. It may not be down to the date, but I know these people
Yeah.
very well. And
Yeah.
so they're starting to turn into my biggest cheerleaders and referral partners. And, when realtors slow down or my top referral partners go on vacation or whatever the case may be, I'm still staying busy just from my database.
Hey, I love that. Hey, and you talked also about relationships. I don't want to neglect that. I want to circle back around. One of the things that we've learned in life is life moves at the speed of relationships. And you are today where you are because of the relationships you've had, and you'll be tomorrow because of the relationships you have today. Talk about that. How have relationships played a big part in your growth in this industry? And what does it look like? How do you're talking
Yeah.
about reaching out to the top 10. How are you consistently looking ahead and saying, I need to spend time with that person so that I can continue to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just about caring. Like, what I've seen in my industry is that a lot of loan officers just treat the loans as loans, and then when it closes, it's done. And
Yeah.
they have the mentality is, I bring the bear in, and my ops people kill the bear, and I'm hands off, and I don't talk to that person ever again. Like, man, you're such a missed opportunity. So just by showing people, like, and telling them that I understand how stressful it is, saying, when they leave a pre-approval meeting, if you're anything like me, you're going to have 6 questions that you forgot to ask me, and then calling them on the way home. Those little tips and tricks that that you talk about, that Greg Gale talks about, that all these top people talk about, I'm just implementing at a really high level, and I'm just doing it every single day. So I'm doing handwritten cards on their
So
birthdays.
good. Yeah.
I'm doing 1 year anniversary
Hmm.
cards. I'm sending them their CDs on tax time. I'm doing my client appreciation events, and that's just people. That's just something that their loan officers, if they've ever had a loan before me, their loan officer just didn't do. And
Yeah.
so it's a
No.
whole new experience for them. And it's not just, you're just a number, it's just a commission check. It's so much more than that. Fannie Mae says you're going to do 7 loans in your life. I want to do all 7 of those loans, and I have that conversation with my people up
Yeah. I
front.
love it.
Yeah, so I tell them, I say, you're going to do 7
One
loans in
and
your life.
done.
I want all 7 of those loans. You're gonna hear from me,
Oh,
and then
that's
I
so good.
ask for the business and all that stuff that we preach about.
Hey, what do you do whenever you don't feel like getting up and making another call? Surely you have those days, man. Like as we go into the winter months, I don't know about you or anybody listening. Even this last 30 days, I just have to keep driving. It's like if I didn't have good structure, I would be lost. But it's the
Yeah,
structure that drives it. But
yeah.
what are you doing to, push forward and stimulate your mind and really get past the feeling of not wanting?
There's a couple things. I'm scared still.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
wake up every day unemployed. That's how I look at it. I'm like, where the heck is my next loan, and then 12 o'clock, I'm like, everybody stop.
Stop.
It's out of control. It's like, I'm so not unemployed anymore. I am a slave of my business. But I am still a little bit
Such a
scared
good
about the
mentality.
100,
Yeah.
100% commission. So I never want to stop. I'm also extremely competitive. So, the thing that I love about mortgages, it's all stats
Yeah.
and it's all trackable, and you can see everybody else's stuff. So the top 100 drives me. I'm looking at that stuff. I can tell you your average loan amount. I could tell you Peter Zaff's average loan amount. I
Yeah.
could tell you, what Garrett Locklear does, what Jonathan Romero does, like all of these people in our industry that are just crushing it. There's like, I'm doing good. You're doing good. There's a whole nother game being
Oh
played.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like 2 hours south of Champanosian. I mean, he's, the pinnacle of our industry. He closed 1,100 units for like 500 million last year.
Whew.
That's, I'm doing 40 million in a year. He's doing that in a month, so, so there's a whole nother game being played. So I still see, the success, the breadcrumbs, the brick
Yeah.
by brick mentality. I know that I'm ahead of where I wanted to be this year. My goal was to hit President's Club. It was 30 million was my goal. And,
That's huge.
I passed that, but I'm not done. I'm just getting started. So I haven't reached where I want to reach yet, because, Brian Decker's closing 200 million. Andrew Marquis is just north of me. He's closing 300 million a year. I mean, there's a whole Peter, even in our industry. I've watched the Peter Zaff video about 15 times about his mentality of, knowing what's going to happen with each loan before it happens. And it's, that mentality, it's just, people are doing so much more than I'm doing. So I still feel like, I haven't even scratched the surface of what can be done in this industry. So that keeps me super motivated.
Man, I love it. Well, and I love your enthusiasm and passion for what we do. We get a chance to make a difference in the lives of our clients and of our families and our extended families. And hey, I'm super proud. Kudos to you. What just a banner year, and it's only the beginning. Hey, as we wrap up the episode, any last thoughts you want to give the audience?
Yeah. So I would say that, like I said, when I started, I didn't know anything. I didn't have any referral sources. I didn't have any realtor partners. But it's just the small wins every day. You can't expect to just wake up and do 40 million or do 17 million. It's what are you going to do today to make yourself better than you were yesterday in your business, in your life, in your, in your health, whatever it is. It's brick by brick. It's the little wins. It's not going to happen overnight. And the other thing is just surround yourself with people. And if you don't have them in your industry, find podcasts, find the Loan Officer Leadership Podcast, find Scott Groves, find people that are doing it, ask the questions, get motivated. Because it's very attainable no matter what market you're in, no matter what level of experience that you have. This industry gives you all of the opportunity in the world. Then you just got to look in the mirror and figure out if you're going to take it.
I love it, man. Hey, well, guys, if y'all want to connect more with Adam, he's a part of the Loan Officer Leadership Group, the Facebook group. Adam, I think you are. If you're not, I want to make sure you are.
No, I definitely am. Yep.
But man, as you're listening to this, you have a question, hit Adam with a question. We're thrilled to have you. And really, it is full circle. We were planning out months ago who to bring onto the podcast, and I kept thinking about you, and I just thought, what a story about just the ability to give back, and also for somebody who takes it and says, hey, it's not all, but it's just the beginning of how to have a great career. So, man, I'm honored to call you a co-laborer, co-worker in this industry with you. Thank you for being on the podcast. And man, we're going to keep celebrating all your wins. So with that, guys,
I appreciate that.
All right, brother. Y'all take care. See you.